Hi everyone, today we'll be making the NBC pouch by Serendipity Patterns, and we'll be using the binding method for this one. This is the size medium and it is lined. I used cotton woven for the exterior and the interior, and I used binding to cover the raw edges at the bottom, and we'll go through how we apply that as well. So put that aside. I've got my pieces, my lining, my exterior, I have my binding strip, my zipper tape, my Key Fob hardware. I'm using the clamp style, my number 5 zipper pull, and I already applied my interfacing to the back of my exterior fabric. The first step is to attach the zipper tape. We're not going to attach the pull to the zipper yet, so we're going to measure a 1/4 inch up from the bottom of the zipper tape. Use your pen, just add a little line, and we're just adding this to the bottom. So you should have a little 1/4 inch mark from the bottom. Next, we're going to take our lining and lay the zipper on the right side. We're not matching up the bottom to the bottom of the zipper. We're going to match it up to that 1/4 inch mark. So right here. So there should be a 1/4 inch overhang at the bottom of the zipper. And then we're going to take our exterior and lay it on top of that. Again, we're not matching it up with the bottom of the zipper, just put it at that 1/4 inch mark, and we're going to clip it into place. Now that we have this clipped together with the lining right side up, the zipper on the right side up, and then the exterior right side facing down, clipped together with the 1/4 inch overhang, we're going to go ahead and use our zipper foot to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here, top stitching at the beginning and end of your seam. We have this side attached. Now we'll attach the other side. So open this up, place the bottom of your exterior at that 1/4 inch mark, grab your lining, put it on the back, line not at the edge of the zipper, but lining it up just like you did on the other side at that same 1/4 inch mark, and we're going to clip this in place. So this side is now attached. We can separate our zipper tape. Remember, the zipper pull is not yet on the zipper tape. So it's now separated. It should look like this. And we're going to turn it so we have the right sides of the lining and exterior facing out. And you can finger press or take your iron. Just be careful not to iron over your zipper teeth. Remember, this is using nylon zipper teeth, not metal, so we do not want to iron over the zipper teeth because we could melt them. I just like to finger press because it's faster. And do both sides. And we're going to top stitch at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we will also be doing a little back stitching at the very top in line with the top of the fabric over the zipper teeth on this side and the other side. Those stitches right there will act as zipper stops so that you don't accidentally slide your zipper pull off once we do attach it. Our top stitching is done on both sides, and we've back stitched at the top of our zipper so that the pull doesn't slide off. Next, we're going to add our number 5 zipper pull. Now I like to attach mine with my hands. Some people like to use a fork or a zipper jig. You can use whatever tool makes you feel comfortable. So to attach mine, I have my pouch facing with the right side facing up, and I'm going to put the zipper teeth together, and I want to line it up to make sure that there's a nice smooth curve right here. So you don't want it like this because then your curve's going to be off. So I line mine up, and let me get closer. So I like that. So I want to put this side into my zipper pull first, because if it's down, it's going to be a little bit off. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and start with this side, and it will vary depending on how you cut your zipper. So to make sure that I do start with that side, I'm going to look and through the bottom of my pull and line it up so that I keep the same coil pattern. Let me get this side in first, slide on the next side, and then start to ease your pull down. And there you go. So that way the curve continues nicely on both sides. So when you put it all together, everything will match up. And we're going to close the zipper halfway. Now if you prefer to put your zipper on from the other side, I'm going to pull it down a little bit. Let's say you didn't like doing it that way. You want to fold it in this way with the exterior on the outside. Attach your zipper pull. You can do it like this. Close it halfway and then carefully turn it back around so we can sew the curve. And remember, we added our stops up here, so if I close my zipper all the way, it's not sliding off. So you want to make sure you add those stops. So next we're going to grab some wonder clips and clip this curve together. And switch to a regular foot on your sewing machine. So take off your zipper foot if you're using one and switch to a regular foot. Grab your ruler and your marking pen. Following the instructions, you're going to mark 3/4 of an inch up on both sides, and then you are going to mark your 1/4 inch allowance along the bottom of the curve, but you're not going to take that to the very ends. You want to blend it from that mark that you make. So let's go ahead and make that mark up from the bottom 3/4 of an inch. I'm using red just so you can see it better. Mark it on this side as well. And to mark the 1/4 inch seam allowance at the bottom, I usually follow the foot on my machine, but you can mark it just as a guide. Once you've done a couple of these, you may not have to mark it anymore. And make sure that your zipper pull is halfway up, because you don't want to have that near the bottom. We'll be sewing over the zipper, and you don't want your needle to hit the pull, because that would break your needle. And we're sewing over this zipper. It is a nylon zipper. We don't want to be sewing over metal zipper teeth, because that will break our needle as well. I'm just adjusting the clips here so I can mark the 1/4 inch seam allowance at the bottom. So now I will connect the dots for that 1/4 inch seam allowance right here and clip it back in place. Remember, we haven't clipped off the excess zipper tape at the bottom here, so just connect from the 1/4 inch from the bottom of the actual fabric going across. And that should be about 1/2 inch from the bottom of your zipper, since it was a 1/4 inch overhang. Just move that out of the way. Now to connect it to this mark that we made, we just want a nice smooth curve coming up right there. So you're going to be following that line to get that nice smooth curve. And draw the same on the other side. And just have it blend into the 1/4 inch seam allowance at the bottom. So that is your line that you're going to follow to draw your curve. Coming down and going back up to the side. You do not have to backstitch over the zipper for the binding method. So let's go ahead, take that to the machine. You can backstitch at the ends, or if you choose to tie off your threads. I like to backstitch just to secure it since I'm using cotton woven. And let's go ahead and stitch that up. We just sewed our curve, so now is a good time to check it just to see if it is as smooth as you'd like it to be. Well, look at that. A real nice curve. So now we are going to add the binding, but before we do that, let's cut off the extra zipper tape that we have right here. Pull the zipper back up halfway, cut off that excess zipper tape, and let's grab our binding strip. We're folding the short ends in 1/2 inch. And we're going to just put that along the curve right there. Clip it in place with your wonder clips. Keep clipping. And you can burn the end of the zipper before you do this. Actually, since I haven't clipped right there yet, I'll go ahead and do that. You will be sewing over it twice though with the binding. Clip that in place. And this is a very small area that we're adding binding to. So if it's your first time adding binding, or you don't usually like doing binding, this is a good way to practice because it's such a small piece that we're adding it to. We're going to go ahead and stitch this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. With the binding attached, you'll notice that we didn't start at that mark we made for our actual curve for the main pouch. So this, where this starts right here, it's not going to affect the shape of your pouch, those corners. So now we can fold this over, and we're doing a double fold. I don't usually trim my binding, so fold that over and clip it in place. Those short ends should still be folded in 1/4 inch. I'm sorry, the short ends should be folded in 1/2 inch, and we're going to fold this over itself 1/4 inch, and then fold again to cover all of those raw edges. You can clip those extra threads if you have any fraying there. Just keep folding that in. And once you've got all of this clipped together, we're going back to the machine to sew it at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're sewing from this side to make sure that we catch all of the binding. Okay, I didn't follow my seam allowance right here, so it's a little bulky. I'll trim that down. There you go. We can go ahead now and sew this at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you may have some pleating, that's fine, it's inside the pouch. No one's going to see inside the pouch. It's just going to be tucked down in the curve. So let's stitch this now. And just like that, the binding is attached. We're done binding. So just pull your zipper down, turn your pouch right side out, push the binding down into the bottom of the pouch. Just keep pushing it down along that curve. And look at that. Next, we're going to just secure the top here with some back stitching just over the zipper pull. You don't have to go to the ends because then your threads may end up showing. So let's do that. We've back stitched across the top of the zipper, about 1/4 inch from the top. We can clip that off. Just trim the excess zipper off. If you're using a screw-on key fob hardware, then, and you follow the top cutting line on the pattern, then go ahead and attach it using your screws. Just insert it and screw it in. However, if you're using a 1-inch hardware, then you will need to check the measurements on the back. This is a 1 1/4 inch, but I went ahead just to show you what you would do. Put it on the back. Obviously up here, if it's too high, the prongs won't catch the fabric. And you need those prongs to catch the fabric to keep it nice and secure. So place your key fob on top of your pouch. You want the bottom of the key fob to be flush against the edge of your pouch. So for a 1 inch key fob hardware, you may need to trim about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch off the top before attaching it. I'm going to go ahead and trim mine for my 1 1/4 inch. However, for the pattern, the 1 1/4 inch has a specific line that you cut. So just follow the pattern for that. I trimmed off the excess needed to fit my key fob, and I ended up trimming off the stitches I did on the zipper. I don't want to pull my zipper pull off because I've reached so far. So before I attach my key fob, I'm going to go back to the machine, stitch this down just over the teeth, not going to the ends because I don't want the threads to show outside of the key fob. So I'm going to stitch over the teeth, and then I'll go ahead and attach my key fob hardware. I'm using a clamp style key fob hardware, and I'll be using my key fob pliers to attach it. Just double checking one last time. This will be the front. The prongs are on the back. I like how it lines up. You can see the prongs will catch my fabric underneath. So what I'll do is position my key fob on the pliers. And if you have a regular pliers, then you can just protect your key fob hardware with some painter's tape or something else just so it doesn't get scratched. Position this in there. And then my prongs are going to get it and squeeze. I like to do an extra squeeze on the sides to make sure it's extra secure. And there you go. This is the NBC pouch using the binding method. You have it lined, you've got your binding in there, and you're good to go.